do not love. It's a command, which means that if we violate it, that we're in sin. In other words, love can be sinful. Remember, I told you this is an important word for our day. Love can be sinful. We live in the midst of a culture that needs to hear that. It needs to hear that from us. Because it's coming at us with this whole love is love mentality. And how can you be against love? Nobody can be against love. Certainly Christians can't be against love because God is love and we are called to love. Therefore, how can you stand in the way of any two people who love one another? That love is not defined by allowing those whom you love to have what they want, when they want it, just because they want it. The question is, what makes love sinful? What could possibly make love sinful? Love becomes sinful when it is directed at the wrong object. Be careful here, because there is a tendency to take this in very wrong directions. We've got to fight worldliness, and so what that means is you don't drink, smoke, cuss, or chew, or date the girls that do, right? That's not what this is. That's the enemy's sleight of hand. Because I can love alcohol and not drink it. I can love drugs and not take them. I can love these things. My passions and my affections can be pointed in these directions, and yet my legalism and my moralism says I'm better, not just than I was, but I'm better than you. Amen? Because I fight the urge. Because I don't participate. I still love it with every fiber of my being. John's not saying here, don't participate in the world. He says, don't love the world. We must develop discernment in order to determine the difference. But not only that, love becomes sinful when it arises from the wrong source. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, the pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. So there's a problem first with the object, and now here there's a problem with the source. That this love for the world arises from the world. Just like our love for God and for the things of God arises from God. It is God who gives us the capacity to love God. 3 categories: cravings, lust, and boasting. These things arise from the world. And again, we have to separate these two. When we say cravings and lust and boastings, we have to recognize that we're talking about this third world and not the first two. For example, in that first world, I can love the beauty of a sunset. I can love the beauty of a perfectly cooked steak. Sorry. I can I can love the beauty of music, art. Again, those things in this world that God has made. I can and I must love the people whom God has created in this world. But the kind of love that I have for those things is a love that arises from God Himself. But even those loves can be perverted. And so now, instead of me loving the beauty of a sunset or a beauty of God's created order, now I worship God's created order. I worship the creature rather than the creator. Rather than loving the beauty of those things that God has given us, now all of a sudden those things become means to an end, to satisfying myself, to gratifying my flesh. That's when they've crossed a boundary. So our love can become sinful based on its direction and based on its source. But finally, and ultimately, and most importantly, our love becomes sinful when it produces the wrong fruit, when it leads to the wrong ends. Our passions become sinful when they are pointed in directions that lead to death and destruction, as opposed to leading to life.